my next guest is somebody that is so dear to me. And hi, Kelly. How are you?
Hi.
Um, so thank you for being here. I want you all to just hear a little bit about Kelly. Um, Kelly Noonan Gores is the writer, director, and producer of Heal, a documentary feature about the mind-body connection and our body's innate ability to heal. She also authored the follow-up book, Heal, and is the host of the new Heal podcast. A Los Angeles native, she grew up in front of the camera, acting on and off in commercials, TV, and film from the age of 7. In 2012, she started Elevative Entertainment with the intention to create conscious media that informs, inspires, and empowers. She has a passion for psychology, wellness, and spirituality, and an insatiable appetite for understanding consciousness. Her intention with the Heal platform is to empower people with knowledge about the incredible ability and intelligence of the human body and inspire people to expand their belief about what's possible and become conscious co-creators with life. Kelly is a seeker, a meditator, and an investor, and enjoys traveling, sports, reading, and writing. So please help me welcome to the stage, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, so glad that you're here. I'm so curious because this is about the happy, the happy, healthy, wealthy mama, embodying inner peace and prosperity. And I never noticed before the word that that you're a seeker, a meditator, and an investor.
Yeah.
Wow. What can you say about that?
Oh my gosh. Are you talking about the seeking, the meditating, or the investing, or all of the above?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, why don't you take one at a time? I am really interested in the investing, but please let's talk about meditating.
Yeah, I mean, meditating is one of my main tools to stay grounded. And I learned transcendental meditation, I think in 2007. So however many years ago that is now, 15 years ago. Is that crazy? Quick math. And yeah, so it's, I mean, I feel like it's a way for me to drop into that parasympathetic. And it's kind of I live in LA. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of, you do too. There's just tension in the air. I've gone to other places in the world and you're less affected. We have a beautiful house on Lake Michigan. And the minute we walk in the door, it's just like you decompress, and even when you're at the beach in LA, you just still have that kind of frenetic energy in the air. So for me, meditation is like my way of dropping back into myself and not getting hijacked by everything that's going on in the world. So it's my lifeline every day. But I listen to guided meditations. I do TM, whatever I can handle in that moment. There's no rigidity around my practice, which is nice.
Yeah. And having a little girl and being with her, I know for me, when my daughter was really little, it was oftentimes like a meditation.
Yes. Yeah, that's the key because you don't often have control over your schedule. So you try to be meditative in the moment, whether it's playing or creating or, trying to keep your cool in the trying time of patience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly.
Yes. And clearly as a seeker, it led you to create both the book and the documentary.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by life. I mean, obviously like life and what's the purpose of life? Like, what does it all mean? And I kind of have followed my own, just what resonates with me, along my path. And so it's just, I continue to seek so I can find what resonates with me as truth and explore that and be open then to people that have a completely opposite perspective and point of view and find that so interesting that we have so many different, perspectives. But yeah, I feel like we understand such a small fraction of what is really going on. So I just want to keep seeking because it's thrilling. It's fascinating to try and figure this all out.
Yes, I feel it. I have often said I'm just so fascinated by people And I have this this desire and a love and appreciation of just listening to people. I may not always agree with them, and sometimes, I don't, but I'm still fascinated by things and by practices and by people. It's just, it makes it gives me enthusiasm for being in this human body,
Yes.
in times
Totally.
when, yeah, it's really interesting time. So I'm really interested now about the investing.
Yes. So, I mean, just the world that I live in, my husband is an investor.
Ah,
So I've learned a lot about business. I'm fascinated, by just the amount of like startups and creative entrepreneurs that are doing things in wellness and spirituality and health, so it's just by the nature of my relationship to him, we get approached by opportunities all the time. And so I just kind of fell into it, but I love it's you're just betting on people that are changing the world and doing good work. And it's really kind of exciting. And then of course you try to add value in whatever way you can to help
wonderful.
push them along. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful way to be able to really give back. And also, I'm also fascinated by business because my mind is not naturally in that bent. Like like you, from the time I was a child, I was always interested in psychology, spirituality, and creativity. And so, for me, it's like that business side is like, wait, what are we talking about here? And
Right.
so I appreciate it. There's something really sexy and stimulating about the whole concept of business and understanding it. It's a very cool experience to be
Yeah.
around.
And I mean, there's so many creative individuals out there, and from all different backgrounds and degree levels or lack of degree. And I just think it's thrilling to like, again, it's just back to that resonance. Like, what do you resonate with? So, so many people, and you hear all these inspiring stories of like, oh, this, someone told Meryl Streep she couldn't act or something. And then like, of course,
Right.
they're up there winning more Oscars than anybody. And so, just really like tapping into your own intuition and going, oh, this needs to come to fruition, this idea, this business, this product, whatever. And following that and not listening. And it's just so cool to be part of that journey and back the people you really believe in. And maybe, 3 fail and 1 hits big or whatever, but it's like, you want to put your energy and resources behind things that could potentially enlighten the world.
I really appreciate what you're saying, because underneath what you're saying, what I hear is enthusiasm, curiosity, and really activating, this quality within us, this intuition, like really connecting in, which makes us sovereign beings.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny. And like my background said, I come from Hollywood, and there's this, culture in Hollywood, not to offend anybody, but there's like almost a lack of creativity on the business side of things. The executives and the agents, nobody wants to take a risk unless there's like a big A-list celebrity. But what fascinates me is like these stories of like the unknown director. And it's just like, that that take the risk and do everything they can to make this story, and nobody believed in them, and then they just like the magic happens because they're telling a story that's important to them, and they attract actors that are unknowns but are passionate about the work they do, and it just becomes this magical thing. Or like the story with Jaws, Steven Spielberg, like they had this whole shark idea, and then it didn't work out, so they had or it was something that happened with this mechanical shark, and it forced him to get creative, and it ended up making this kind of iconic movie because he was forced in a time of stress and obstacles to get creative. And so those are the stories I'm fascinated with, and
Yeah.
people taking risk and people just believing in themselves and others.
Mhm. Yeah, it to me it's similar to I mean, it's an extrapolation, but it's similar to mothering,
Yeah.
right? It's this unknown, and there's this being in front of you that is this very like an open sponge that you can influence, but they have their own creativity, and that risk of loving them and investing in them, and then seeing what they do.
Yes.
And all of the ins and the outs of being in the daily trenches of motherhood. And so you do, I imagine, I mean, I know you're very deeply rooted in your spirituality. Do you have a spiritual practice that you do every day that you could share with us?
Oh gosh, well, definitely the meditation is probably the biggest. Like I said, and it takes on many forms depending on what I can do. I'm a big journaler. I love to write. I feel like there's a lot of kind of creative energy in writing.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think a superpower that I tap into a lot is gratitude. I mean, just like swimming in the ocean, like I did with my husband, I played tennis and he did his workout and we jumped in the salt water. And like, there's not a lot of, because of Heal the Bay and other things that have happened, like our ocean is very clean where we live right now. And I'm just like, God, can you imagine if it wasn't? Like if there was, I'm like, we're so blessed, so just trying to remember these things that we often take for granted, not stepping on a plastic bag in the ocean, and just time with our kids, and just trying to, like, any little spiritual practice and gratitude is kind of like the thing where I'm like, okay, what can I find to be grateful in this moment to keep me in the present moment? So it's kind of like a little hack. It's like, okay, if I'm starting to get stressed or, worrying about something petty, it's like, okay, come back to the present moment. I'm like, thank God my child is healthy. Oh my God, I get to play Barbies with my child, whatever it is. Gratitude is a way to just like bring me back to what's happening now, here and now,
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So all the moms that are listening, all the mamas that are here, just that's such a powerful practice to implement.
But then when you're in full trigger mode, like I was last night, because I was exhausted, gratitude was the farthest thing that I was thinking of. Right. So I sound very like enlightened. And then you have moments where you're not resourced and you lose you lose it because you're getting triggered or you're exhausted or you didn't eat enough or whatever it was. My thing last night, I was so exhausted and my child was overtired.
Yes.
And she just was stalling going to bed, but it's like 2 hours basically past, an hour and a half past her bedtime. And she's saying she's hungry and I have to, trust her. I'm not going to be like, well, no, you're stalling. Like, if you're really hungry, I'm going to feed you. But it's a game she plays. And then her dad comes in and has a completely different parenting style, which is like no boundaries, whatever they want, whenever they want. If they fall asleep at, 11 p.m. as a 3-year-old, that's totally fine. Eating sweets at 9:30, watching the iPad. I'm like, no, this is not, and so finally I just had to I have to just whatever, like what I needed to do in that moment was just resource myself, which is like, I need to go to sleep because I'm not capable of mothering right now because I can't even function. So I just had to let go and let him do whatever he was going to do with her. And, they came up like a half an hour later and she crawled into bed with me and we slept. But gratitude was the farthest thing I had in that moment. I was just frustrated and exhausted. And I'm like, okay, you handle it. I'm going to bed.
Right. I love that honesty because it really does happen like that. That's really in those moments you have all these tools, them, like, I could reach for this, but in that moment, when you're flooded, when you're just triggered, you're just like, okay, what can I reach for? And you made me laugh because my daughter we used to have this routine where we would have dinner. I would give her a bath. I play, bedroom music, bedtime music. And then we'd get into bed. I'd have the book, and then there would be those nights. And again, my husband too, like different energy. He would get it, he laid down with her. He'd tell her a story. They'd giggle. And then she'd fall asleep. And I'm like, because I was all day. I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to lose it. So, and I did.
And in their mind, they're like, this is so easy. Why are you having such a hard time? And I'm like, not helping. But anyways, and I've never actually done that where I'm just like, you handle it. I knew in that moment I had to parent myself almost because
Yes.
I couldn't function anymore. I was like max level of frustration. So that's kind of my learning right now, is like not feeling shame about that. Just going, I have, you do what you can until you can't, and then you seek help.
Yes, absolutely. And it's such an important teaching to embody, because I was talking with Jenny Glick, whom you'll meet in the roundtable, about this tendency of moms that when they have hit the wall, they push even harder. And she and I were saying, it's shifting and it's going slowly, but just you're being able to do that. You're being able to take your hands off. And thankfully you have a wonderful husband who's a good dad who you trust, with your precious girl. And then you can just go, okay, I got, my embodying inner peace right here, right now means you got her. I'm done for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
Exactly.
that's knowing yourself. And it now more than ever in our life, it is important to know ourselves, to know our limits.
Yes.
Do you agree?
And know that we're human. And as much as we all want to be super women, and we are 99.9% of the time, we're human, and if we're not resourced, we are going to get triggered. We're going to burn out. We're going to do all these things. And to not feel shame about that. That's my big work right now, is just like to be okay being human. And like, I can learn all about conscious parenting, and I can, learn about reparenting ourselves. And when we get triggered and but then there's going to be moments where it just all goes out the window. And then, hopefully little by little, you're just layering on these learnings and you get better and better as you go. But you can't, I'm still learning too,
Absolutely. And, mommy guilt and the shame, blame game is an exercise in futility. So I support you in just if you have to forgive yourself, if you have to, whatever it takes for you to be kind to yourself, perhaps doing the exercise where you put your hand on your heart and the other, in your womb area, just to allow yourself to do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself so you can be the mother that you would like to be, which doesn't mean that you're perfect. It means that you are striving to be the best mom you can be for your child.
Yes. Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And that, and your efforts to like not be like your parents, be over in certain areas. Some of us have lovely parents, I'm sure.
Yes.
But the aspects that we did not want to repeat, ironically, you try so hard not to repeat them that you find yourself in the same energy that is conducive to kind of having those same kind of reactions. It's wild. So all we can do is like continue to know ourselves and listen to talks like this and know that we're not alone, and try just cultivate awareness every day and kind of like step back and observe ourselves as we get triggered, or as we, why am I getting triggered? Is it because I didn't sleep enough, didn't eat enough, didn't have a need met? It's the same with our kid. Why are they getting triggered? Why are they acting this way? Okay, well, are they overtired? Did we, have they eaten lately? Do they so you just go through the checklist, and if it's none of those things, then it's like, okay, so it's just awareness with ourselves, and awareness of, what's causing their behavior.
Absolutely. And breathing.
Oh yeah.
Breathing. Because my experience as a mom and working with moms is that the places where we get triggered are usually connected to the places where we may have unmet needs from our childhood. And so when we can attune, when we can address and really soothe those places within ourselves, our kids somehow, that energetically it dissolves. Totally. And they're experimenting, as they're, growing up and becoming more of themselves, they're like experimenting. And, there's this old joke that if you raise empowered children, be prepared for having empowered children, because they're going to push the limits, they're going to push the buttons, and it's healthy. I mean, depending on the scenario, it's really a healthy exploration and expression of their intelligence.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's collective intelligence of like the universe giving you exactly what you need to heal.
Yes.
Or at least just hold these kind of, inner children that are still wounded.
Yes.
And,
Definitely.
not try to fix, because there are aspects of yourself that, helped to create your personality. You came in with some parts, and then of course, these did the way you were raised, and you have these other parts that, get triggered. So I love the idea, even though my whole platform is called Heal. It's like, there's parts of us that it's not necessarily to be healed or fixed. It's to be held in those moments.
Yes.
And then you teach your child through osmosis and modeling and all of the things that they, that they're held, so they hopefully have a few less wounds than we did,
Yeah. That is the intention, isn't it, of conscious parenting, is to hopefully eliminate the baggage that, we get to, address our own, and so that they don't have as much. And, we're living in a world right now where it's really interesting to be awake and to be alive. And we have these opportunities before us with all of this awareness. You have so much awareness and so much wisdom. And you have this precious little girl who is going to help you grow and evolve as a woman, as a mom. And then you get to be her, you're her guardian, you're her guide through all of this. And she's going to have this ability to know herself.
We can only hope.
Oh yes, I'm confident. I'm confident of that. I'm confident that will be the case. And then there's the day in and the day out of it.
Yeah.
Right. There's the aspiration is there. And then there's, oh my God, I'm so tired. Yeah. I'm going to lose it if I just do not lay my head down. Or I used to have this joke with my daughter where if I was on my last nerve, I would literally say to her, so mommy has this much patience. This is how much, because I needed to tell her, like I'm about to turn into ogre mommy instead of mommy. So hang on. She's here. I can feel her. She's right here. And to me, that's also embodying your divine nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then they can start to like tune in. It's just, where you're constantly modeling, like I have this, so they can start to go, oh, what's my patience level? They start to ask themselves those questions.
Yes.
And start to, it's even interesting as I'm learning about conscious parenting. Like a year ago, I remember like a profound moment where, I'm learning about like naming, how you name their feelings and what's going on. Like you're really frustrated because you can't have a cookie right now or whatever it is. And then I was feeling like it was just a day, and I was feeling like all sorts of emotions and angst and anger, and I didn't know what I was feeling. And I'm like in the shower and I'm like, what would I name what am I feeling? And I realized like I've never cultivated that practice of awareness of myself. Nobody's ever taught me what emotions I'm actually feeling. So that like set me, I'm like, now I just like try to tune in and like, what is this feeling? Is it frustration? Is it rage? Is it anger? And so just to even have that awareness, it's like, how sad. Like I've never even known how I'm feeling. I can't even name what I'm feeling.
Yeah, well, at least you're in the process of reclaiming that, the emotional literacy. I've often said that parents are their children's emotional coaches, and giving them the opportunity to have an emotional library, to have the capacity and the ability to identify what's happening. So many adults, when you speak with them and you ask them how they're feeling, they have to pause and really think like, how am I feeling? Because they're not aware that they're feeling. They're thinking their feelings, but they're not feeling. And so it's wonderful that you're doing that, because it's a great gift to her that you're doing that. Really
and
great.
You said something really important. Just the last bit of that is like then being okay with feeling. So it's like you start to practice like, what is it that I'm actually feeling? Is it anger? Actually, then no, it's really hurt, underneath it. So you get specific about what you're feeling, and then you actually just sit there and feel it. And that's what we don't do. We escape, we run, we don't, so just like, even just like, I don't know if it's 90 seconds, I think it takes for an emotion to pass. It's just like, if you can just sit there for 90 seconds and breathe and feel, and question if you need to, deeper, and just feel it's like 90 seconds and it passes. And it's like, then it's not, you're at least not letting new stuff get stuck on you, or it's just something to practice as if anyone else is relearning what they're feeling, and then just feel. None of us.
Well, and a lot of healing trauma has to do with being present to what's going on, because at that time, whatever occurred was so profound that one splits off. So the being trauma informed is that and helping to heal trauma is really probably, from heal, is being present. And it isn't something you can necessarily like, there's not a guidebook, because it's experiential.
Right.
Like you being in the shower and you taking that time, you were in your mind going, okay, so what is this? Can I identify this feeling that was moving through you? And yes, like the 90 seconds for that to move through. When you look at children, they have yes, I agree. They have this capacity to have emotions, like energy in motion, right?
Right.
Laying on the ground, just giving it their best, like yelling and crying and, all not running from there. They're like really working it out. And then like 3 minutes later, la, 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 la,
yeah, they're like, oh, doggy. Yeah, exactly. Totally.
So if we were able to give that to the supposed leaders of this world, I don't think we would be living in such a trauma identified paradigm. I feel like we would have this opportunity to have a different experience of life and really be able to also move through the challenges.
Totally. Yes. We're teaching hopefully our next wave of leaders, the future of leadership is going to be very different, hopefully.
Yes. Well, that's my intention. That's what I'm holding, is that through moms like yourself and the other moms that are on, that are speaking today, and the ones that are present and that will be listening to this afterwards, that there's a collective agreement that we are committed to being different so that we can pass that legacy on to our children.
Yes. Amen. I love it.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all that you do. That Heal documentary is one of my my favorite documentaries, because the theme of that movie is that we have dominion over our being, even in the midst of really intense experiences.
That's right. Yep. We're co-creators, and so much is possible. We are very powerful. So especially in community like this. So kudos for everyone for showing up.
Absolutely. And I love your podcast. I know you're taking a little exhale from that. And I love the guests that you've had on the podcast. They're great.
Thank you. It took me about, 5 months into it? It took me four whole months to kind of untangle all the stress and burnout, but I feel inspired again, and we're going to have a little bit more of a manageable schedule going forward. So the podcast will come back soon.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. I look forward to it. And I look forward to your being on the round table with the other mamas shortly. So thank you for being here. And I'll make sure that everyone has access to contact you.
Amazing.
So, thank you, Kelly. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.